Hey guys, welcome back to Top Trendy. You might have watched some fictional movies and heard some rumors about real serial killers which you thought they might not be real. Well, today I got you the 10 most scariest inmates to ever live. At first, we have Eyeball Man. This is not only one of the scariest and most dangerous criminals in the world, but he's also one of the scariest looking guys on the planet. In 2012 he was arrested for shooting a cop in a bathroom argument. And that's not why the media brought attention to him. They brought attention to him because of his creepy tattoos. He had tattoos all over his face, around 20 tattoos only on his face. Yes, he's obsessed with them, but his face isn't the only place that he has tattoos. He had also a tattooed black eyeball in which people call him the Eyeball Man. His real name is Jason Barnum, hell of a scary guy. And you can see also from the picture slideshow, that he also had tattooed his entire body. Well, not only that, he tattooed his head with a skull. So maybe, we should call him the Skull Man instead. This guy is so scary even he didn't commit a crime. I think he must be on our list. Coming up next, the real Pennywise. We all know the hit book, miniseries, and the new movie It, which is all about scaring kids and abducing them into creepy places and murdering them. Sounds fictional, right? Well, not exactly, because back in the 1980s when they introduced the hit movie, there was a real version of Pennywise. This guy was called John Wayne Gacy. He was a husband and a lovely father of a girl and a boy. Well, not that lovely, right? He had a secret life, in which he used to dress up like a clown and call himself Pogo, and also volunteer in kids' parties targeting to kidnap them and murder them in a creepy place. The NYPD found lots of buried bodies and missing people in his backyard and in a nearby river. Luckily he is now locked up behind bars, cause he count as the most dangerous serial killers to ever exist. I'm pretty sure that this guy put a lot of people off clowns forever. Next up, the Red Ripper. This guy's nickname is the Red Ripper. He took the lives of hundreds of women in England several years ago. And this guy is from Rostov, which is in the Soviet Union and which is then known as Russia nowadays. His real name is Andrei Chikatilo, and he took over 52 women and children in over a span of 12 years. He was a suspect in many crimes for several years ago. He used to always go in and out of jail due to the lack of finding strong evidence that can leave him behind bars for decades. Finally, after a police snare in 1990, he was caught and confessed into taking 36 people's lives, but this was found to be understatement and he was convicted of doing this to 52 people. And finally, the Soviet police wanted him to get karma, so his punishment was to get murdered the same way he murdered his last victim. The Lobster Boy. This criminal is very odd person and he lived one of the worst odd lives ever. His real name was Grady Franklin Stiles Jr. He was nicknamed as the Lobster Boy, thanks to his condition that was running in his family. He went into the carnival at the age of 7 as there weren't many things he could do, thanks to his hands. He married another carnival performer, and by the age he got angry and drunk, which turned him into a very evil person. He was horrible to his wife and his 4-year-old kids, in which the two of them had the same odd hands. And when his kids grew up, one of them got married, and because of the Lobster Man's jealousy he shot his kid's husband right in the face. He served his sentence and released years later. When he got released he threatened his wife to do the same thing to her, because she got remarried when he was in prison. His ex-wife took no chances and put a bounty over his head, which got claimed by a carnival worker for $1,500. When he got murdered, nobody came to his funeral and he was left behind. Next up, game show contestant. This is not only one of the most scary and dangerous criminals but also one of creepiest. His real name is Rodney Keller, and he took the lives of 5 women in 1970s. He admitted that he done it 4 times, but cops believe that he's done it over 140 times across the USA. Let me tell you why I called him a creepy guy. He is always remembered because he appeared on a dating show and believe it or not he won. He was introduced by the host as a photographer, which is creepy, as he played the victim into seeing only the good things in him during the show. The show is all about a woman, which asks a question to a bunch of guys to determine which guy is the best to go out with. According to the audience, there was a woman called Cheryl's which asked him, when it's the best time to replace our date if we scheduled it in the afternoon. He replied, at night, because at night is the time when things get really good and spooky. And there's a lot more weird answers he replied with. I won't get you into it, but in the end, she said he was too creepy to go out with. And next up, we have Monster. A movie was made about her crimes and Charlize Theron won many awards for playing her role in the movie Monster. She's nicknamed as Monster due to the fact that she's so evil, it's Hollywood-worthy. Her real name is Alien, and she's the only woman on the list, but don't worry ladies, it's a good thing because she was ruthless. She took 7 men's lives in 1989. She had a rough childhood, but this excuse didn't stop the people for forgiving her for her crimes that came to light in 1991. She got arrested and she confessed everything 4 days later, and she served her sentence for 11 years and then she pulled herself out by acting crazy as if she got retarded. The reason she got a harsher sentence is because she announced that she don't have any problem doing all her crimes over and over again. Next up is Underwear Strangler. Yeah, as you can tell by this guy's name, he is seriously strange. This guy's real name is Johann Bootcutwagen, but he went to Jack. He's Austrian and ever since his youth he was in and out of jail for petty theft and things like that, but in 1974 he changed for the worse. He strangled the woman with her own bra until she passed. I mean, they did this to around 40 war women and then moved to LA where he didn't walk. He got caught, but was somehow freed from prison, but then later went on to do it for wartime. Finally the LAPD stopped him and he was given a life sentence, but the creepy thing about this guy is he was writing for magazines during all this and people didn't even know it was him writing. Imagine your favorite column is doing something like this. I don't know about you, but that would really freak me out. And even after he went to jail he was still writing in his cell. Next up is BTK. This guy's real name is Dennis Rader, but the authorities and the media called him BTK. I'm not going to go into what that means, but suffice to say in a nice between 1974 and 1991. He took the lives of at least 10 people in Kansas, USA, much like the Zodiac he would taught, and he's the police with letters mocking them for not being able to catch it, but these letters actually led to his eventual arrest in 2005, but the kicker is how I found out that BTK was Dennis. He sent them a floppy disk with a message making fun of the police who couldn't catch it, but from that they extracted a deleted file about his church, as he was an avid member surprisingly. They then used DNA evidence of him with a floppy disk, and at the church they finally tracked him down and arrested him. He was found guilty of 10 people's passings and was sentenced to jail time in 2005, and this rule is still behind bars today. But don't worry, the judge says he's never coming out. Next up is Human Play. This is a nickname nobody wants to have unless perhaps you're Mary Anton. This woman holds the all-time record for taking the most lives accidentally. She was a cook in New York to wealthy families, and in some offices to buyers. Everywhere she went to terrible scenarios seemed to play out. Within 2 weeks of any place she became a cook at all of the residents, or workers developed serious conditions, and as healthcare back then wasn't so great a huge amount of people ended up passing away. She was investigated by the police many times as they spotted a very obvious pattern of this happening over 20 times. But Mary denied doing anything for food and said it was all one big coincidence, when it turned out Mary herself was very ill. She knew this and cost all the food to recover that and give others illnesses. She claimed she had no idea about it. She was treated and then lived freely outside of jail, and the police actually acted like she was a victim because she was sick. Next up is Hand Zone. This man is famous as he took over 5,000 lives just by using his hands. Hence the nickname Hand Zone. His real name was Saul Figlaw, and he was around during the Ottoman Empire. He took an average of more lives per day for 5 years. But how did he do it with his bare hands? Well, it was all by strangling. Believe it or not, he did this to every person and it worked every time. He was either very strong or very skilled, but he's definitely a madman. This one is pretty historic, going all the way back to the Ottoman Empire, but they were terrible people back then too. I guess he had no motive, or at least no motive, and historians say he would make an amazing athlete today. By to top it all off, he actually worked for the ruler of the Ottoman Empire at the time and it was their royal gardener, but he never went off to the ruler or anyone of much importance. Maybe that's one title he knew he wouldn't have won.